Hey, what's up? John Shred here. I recently finished dry fitting my first custom water cooling computer loop. Today I'm going to take it apart so that I can finish up some of the cabling and then really break down my process on how I did my runs, which fittings I decided to use, and some tips and tricks along the way. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If this is your first time tuning in, this is actually part 3 of a series where I started building my first water cooling custom loop. Part 1 and part 2 go over, kind of the install of the motherboard and the Threadripper CPU that's in there. And the second one was about how to mount this pretty unique EVGA Kingpin 3090 full hydro copper GPU. That is just a pretty rare GPU, so it's kind of dear to my heart. So whether I was going to put it horizontal or vertical, and I decided to go horizontal. So and you see I actually dropped it down a little bit. It's not in the traditional slot up here. It's down in the second slot. Because it's a Threadripper motherboard, and I confirmed I still get all of my channels, my 16x channels here, and I get the same thing up here. I left this open so that if someone wanted to put in an extender, kind of a storage extender card. I have one around, you can see in video too. It fits really well there. And when I designed the loop, I made sure that there was room to change the RAM out and also access the SSD that's inside there, and then also install that extension. So we are here. I know if you watch my last one, it's been over 6 months, and this machine has been sitting here collecting dust for 2 reasons. And one, I was extremely overwhelmed by the process of figuring out the loop. I had decided early on to go with metal tubing. You can see here some of the fragments. We'll go over kind of cutting the metal tubing in a bit. With the metal tubing, you have to get pre-bent 90s. So it limited my ability to kind of get crazy with the bends and make some unique runs. Now, this is my first time doing this. I do not recommend going metal tubing on your first go. It's recommended go soft tubing first, then maybe some plastic, acrylic type hard tubing, something you bend yourself and heat up. And then next on the list, do metal. But we're here. I purchased all the metal. You did at the beginning of the video, you saw essentially the dry fitting of everything. So I want to go through and explain my process, where and how I was trying to connect things, how I had to modify things using fittings, what type of fittings I used, and yeah, I want to kind of break it all down one by one. I'm over here. I want to do this audio only. I just can't fit it in the frame very well. If I get myself in the frame, the camera's going to want to focus on me, and I really want this conversation to be about this computer and the different runs. So if you didn't see my first 2 videos, I actually had an EK Reflection full front distro that I had purchased with this case. And I didn't realize until after I purchased it used, that it had some cracks in it. So I didn't really want to use it, not because I didn't think it was gonna leak, it was the fact that I'm most likely selling this machine afterwards, and my ability to sell it when it has cracks it reduces its value, and someone else may go, okay, well, it may leak. So I went out and I looked at this. This is a Lian EK combo distro on the side. And it was also pretty cheap. I think I got that for about $150 US, which was much, much cheaper than the Reflection or the Reflection 2 for this case, which is in the $300 to $400 range. Okay, everything really has to do with the distro. So first of all, I had to align both radiators so that they were aligned with kind of this series here. So that was pretty easy. I could slide them back and forth, left and right. That was okay. This was a little bit more frustrating because I had to flip it out, tweak it, put it back in, And this one here was pretty easy. There's just some screws on top. Once I lined that up, I knew I was pretty good. If you didn't, the pump is on the back. It's actually a DDC pump that comes with it, not a D5. I would rather have a D5. It is stronger, but we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine for this loop. Next thing, so I knew with this radiator, it was gonna connect here and here, here and here. That was pretty easy. Next is the CPU and GPU. Now, the CPU, there's really two spots here that it can go to. And the trick, most water blocks are kind of vertical, like this. But because this is a Threadripper, it's horizontal, which is fun. So the first challenge for me was how to offset one of the runs, because I didn't want them parallel coming across like this. And so my conclusion was to use one of these EK offset rotary fittings. And they come in two different sizes, 21 mil and 28 mil. This is a 21. Of course, with the RAM, it's such a challenge because you have to turn it. This actually spins and you can turn it yourself, but it's very, very stiff. Okay, that first one's in place. Things that you learn the hard way. I had originally put a fitting on here and then so the tube first is gonna come across here. What kind of fittings I end up going with, I actually went with Thermal Take C Pro fittings. Now, I didn't find out about these until I was at CES, and I went to the Thermal Take booth and I asked them about it. I told them I was building the system, had a great conversation there, and they recommended I use them. Caveat is they only come in 16 mil outer diameter, which that happens to be the size I was using. But what's special about them, and which is pretty unique and helps a lot, and why I didn't go EK, was that it comes in two different pieces. And then when you're measuring, I can actually measure with the tube right against here. Instead, typically with another fitting, you can kind of like bend the tube to get one in and then one out. And that's why with the new EK Reflection 2, they have those push connectors, which help a lot with that. So with these fittings, I was able to easily measure the distance without having to worry about bending anything because you can't bend the metal tubing. So it was almost a must for me. Next one on this side, so I was just gonna run it over and so they're parallel, but the distance, this 21 mils and this was different. It's actually, this is 21 mils and this is 25 mils in between. So it was off by a few mils, and I'll show you a screenshot, an image. It was on a weird angle and it did not look great. Here, let me show you what I ended up buying is one of these EK 3mm offset fittings. So I get that guy in there. Okay, so I got it in. It was actually having a hard time turning because it was actually hitting up against the other fitting. This is a big challenge and something that I've learned throughout this experience. It's just that fittings are bigger than you expect sometimes. And I'll show you a couple places where I had to actually buy some 7 mil extensions because I couldn't get, especially these C Pros are pretty big. Those two connect up to these two. That's pretty solid. Okay. Next, let's figure out the GPU situation. So I knew I wanted a pipe to come in behind this screen. Kingpins have a pretty neat screen on them, and so I didn't want to block that. So I wanted one tube to come down and one tube to come back. And the challenge was getting it over here to there. As you can see, the line, they're both these holes, either these two or these two, they're higher than I'd love to have them like right here or something, and then I could just plug them right in. So originally I had bought EK 45s, hoping that a 45 degree would like go perfectly down and then I could connect it with a 90 degree, but I was wrong and they didn't work. So instead, I have more of these double rotary EKs. And what I like about them is once it's in, I can tilt it to whatever angle I want. So Let me get, what I did just so you can see the tubing a bit better, I actually did a 21 up here and a 28 down there just to offset the tubes. I'll show you when I get it all installed. Now I'm gonna pause here. And what's interesting about this 21 mil, and I want you to see the problem. If I put this C-Pro fitting on, it's actually so big that I now can't tilt it. It's stuck. So what I had to do instead was I purchased a micro 7mm extension. So you put that here. Now I can tilt it down to whatever angle I want. Okay, now the 28 thankfully doesn't have that problem. It has a little bit more room. Okay, so these are both gonna have tubes that come out, turn 90 degrees and then connect here. Now, this is a bit tricky because I had to get in behind this screen. So that's where I have another 28 mil offset. It's going to go right here. Now on the bottom, you can't see, but I have this hole open. Now, what I wanted to do was at least use this as a 90-degree turn. But the problem is I had the same issue with the fitting. If I put the fitting on here, this fit fine. Okay, you can see it fits fine, but the actual fitting doesn't fit on top because it rubs against the bottom. So it's only a problem if you're using those Thermaltake C-Pro. So what I did is I bought another 7mm extension, similar to what I did with the 21mm over there, except I kept it the normal size versus the micro. Then I put the end of the fitting in. Give it a tighten. Okay. So one tube going this way to that one, other one going to that one. The only one remaining is this top corner here, which I'll get to after I start putting some of the other tubing in, but I wasn't able to, because of the tubing. Here, let me show you a tube really quick. Here, this is what they come in. It's long. I don't even know if I got it in frame. There we go. You'll see I have a bunch of extras because all I need is these small runs once we get into it. But because of this corner, you can't change the radius of the corner. It was too short of a run to fit in the corner. So I had to come up with a fitting solution. So yeah, I'll get to that after. All right, give me a second. I'm gonna grab the tubes themselves and then we can start to fill the gaps and I can see kind of how the tubes all fit. Be right back. All right, so here's all of the tubes. Hopefully I can figure out how they all go back in. I couldn't really label them. If you're wondering how you cut the tubes, this is a pipe cutter, normal copper pipe cutter that you would get. I got this at Home Depot for, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks. You essentially measure your distance. I did use these guys to help measure, you know, this is cheap. I got this for 10 bucks on Amazon. Really helped with measuring. You literally place a piece of tube in and you pinch it. And you kind of just pinch and you close it in. See, now it's pinched in there like that. And you turn this and then, this is gonna be hard to do because I can't, but you literally turn it and it scores it. The smaller the cut, the harder it is. Sometimes it would get all wonky as I was trying to turn this and around. Sometimes it would end up being on a weird angle. So definitely watch it. It was challenging. As you can see here, I have a lot of off-cut pieces. These are just extras. As I was measuring, I just used a black Sharpie. As you can see, there's even a couple black marquee Sharpie marks on them. This one ends up hiding behind this screen so no one will see it. Once you cut it, you do have to sand the edges. So I ended up using a 350 grit sandpaper first to take off. I'll show you a little video of me doing the pipe kind of round and round. And then I think I got some footage for sanding. And then I also then finished it off with a 400 grit just to really polish it up. Now you don't have to worry about the inside of the pipe. When I did the first couple, I was trying to do the inside and really make it all soft, but it's only the outside that the O-ring travels across, and then you have to worry about it cutting the O-ring. If it cuts the O-ring, that is a problem. Another thing that's nice about these C-Pro fittings that there's 4 O-rings altogether that make it work. I don't know if that makes it so there's some redundancy, but it definitely is a really nice fit once it's on there. So yeah, measure, mark it, cut with the clamps, sand it a couple times, and then we have to do that for both ends. And I mean, dry fit it. I was dry fitting it without sanding it. I was just making sure not to cut the O-ring. Once it was at the correct length and I was happy with it, that's when I would take the time to really sand it down. And then last, I mean, I put it all together before, and one of the big reasons why I took this whole system apart again is, one, I couldn't access cabling once the tubes were in, so I couldn't put the header cables in and anything like that. So I was like, okay, no problem. But also, there's a lot of debris that happens when you're cutting just little shards, and interesting enough, the insides of some of the tubes, some of them were perfectly clean, other ones were a little bit dirty. Not sure it's because they were stored. I did order them from 3 different locations. Like I say, if you are interested in knowing the pricing and where I got the fittings and how much this whole thing cost, just leave a comment down below. Let me know if you're interested. I can get into where I acquired all these fittings. I decided to clean the inside of all of the tubes with distilled water. I'll put a little clip of me, you can see I'm cleaning out with it's inside of a straw cleaner. It's the best thing that I could find to get out some debris. When I finished, there was definitely quite a bit of junk in the water that it doesn't matter if the junk is inside these tubes. I don't care. It's when it goes inside this very, very unique GPU. I don't want it to get that debris to get caught inside the GPU because there's small fins that water has to travel through. It's not a big hole like it is here. So the water block on the CPU, I'm less concerned about because I can replace them. They're cheap enough, 150, 200 bucks, but the GPU itself and the water block and how that all works is much more expensive. So I didn't want to damage it. Measure, mark, cut, sand, clean. It was a lot of work. I'm working on this for the past month, really kind of going through the process, and it's very, very fun. I found myself at the end of the day wanting to go back to this build because I would find something, figure out I needed to order a 7mm. Thanks dasmod.com. I'm in Canada, so he's the #1 Canadian water cooling part place. I had to put in a couple different orders just because I needed an extra fitting here or there. It's always recommended to get more fittings than you need. I ended up with definitely a few extras. There's 45 degrees that I didn't use extras, an extra 28mm double rotary that I didn't use. So yeah, if you need support, please go to the water cooling subreddit. They're awesome there. You can always get some great advice. Thank you to everyone who's helped so far. So, okay, give me a few seconds to put the fittings on all of the tubes, and then I will start to I'll start to connect them. The other thing I didn't talk about, and this is sitting over here, I ended up buying this AquaCool flow sensor, or Aqua computer flow sensor. Oh shit, now I'm breaking stuff. I'm putting it right up here, just so it's in the middle, which caused a problem, because you may notice for me to be able to come out of this CPU, I wanted to come up enough that I could get above the memory, so if you wanted to change it. But because of that, I would have to come up and then back down. Well, none of these are U-shaped. You can, I know Barrow does have some U-shaped ones, but even so, it's a set distance. I can't shorten it. So for me, I had to come up over. One went into the AquaCool Aqua computer, and then out the other side. So I had 2, but the one on the bottom didn't have anything. So I actually had to get one of these female to female fittings And so you'll see, it's almost just like a joiner. I end up just joining them two together, and you'll see. It looks great. Well, you did see at the beginning. You can kind of, I'll note again. I'll point it out. But let me start to throw this all together. If I can figure out which tube goes where. All right, let me get to it. I'm starting with the longest tube. Even when cutting, just pro tip, start with the longer tube first. If for whatever reason you mess up and you end up too short, which happened to me once, you can then still use that for a shorter run. If you start with the short ones, you're screwed. If there's any fitting that's going to leak, it's this one right here. I made it so short that the radius, the fitting doesn't sit just really well and flat. I'm trying to do my best to get it up there, so we'll see how well that works. We will do a leak test before we put water in it. Okay, so here is the tricky one where I had to use fittings to essentially make a 90 because I couldn't get the radius. This was too small, so I wanted to come down and use another one of these EK fittings to turn the corner, but I needed to go down a little further, so I ended up getting this 14mm extension in black. Put that in first, and then what I found was that when I had everything black, it just looked weird because everything else was using the satin titanium. So I ended up getting this. I needed another 7mm distance anyway, so I put this in, and it kind of makes it. It's a little bit of an illusion, but it makes it look like it's a tube. I'll show you when I get it together here. Same problem. I wanted to get a fitting on here, and a fitting on here. I couldn't get a fitting on here because I needed an extension. So here's another satin piece. Use this as an extension. Ta-da. Get the fitting on here. And then this tiny little piece is going to fit right here. And see what I mean by having, see the distance here to here? I mean, I can literally get the tube and it fits in perfectly. And that's how I know it'll work. And that's such a bonus for these small spaces. There's no way I'm going to bend it in one fitting and out. And like I say, I don't have that the new push fitting here. Okay, you can see the one side and the other side. I think I have there's a bit of a marker here. I'm going to put that on this side because when you're looking in the case, you probably won't see it likely. Okay, that's it. See now, at least with the satin there and the satin, I think it looks pretty good. Ties it in well. Okay, so everything is connected, which is amazing. And the next thing I want to do is leak test it. So I did pick up EK leak tester here. The idea is that I'm going to open one of these, the fill port, which is right here. I like this one because it has a longer tube. That's connected. So the idea now is I pump. And it fills the whole thing. Am I starting to get some pressure? Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit harder. It's building up pressure. Okay, so it's definitely in the green. Can you see that? Yeah, in the green. And the idea is that I will let it sit here for 15-20 minutes and see if that changes and I lose any air pressure. And I'm back. So I did run into a little bit of an issue. Like I said, it was this fitting right here. I disconnected, reconnected. It was keeping it, but you could see it was losing a little bit too fast. Now, I redid it again and I started it just above the 5. After 15 minutes, it's kind of getting near the 4. That's a little bit of to me, I think that's fine. Air is smaller than water, so I think it will be perfectly fine. So next step will be to remove this, reseal this back up, and add some coolant. I did purchase some Corsair hydro coolant. I'll show it to you in a sec. But I forgot a fill bottle. So I've ordered one on Amazon. It should arrive tomorrow. We'll circle back tomorrow and we will add some fluid to the loop. Hey, what's up? Okay, I am back. It is the next day. I was able to get, ta-da, bottles delivered. It's pretty bright over here. Amazon, like 15 bucks. I'm using these Corsair Hydro X series coolant, and I have filled this up completely. Now, I do have some paper towel. Now, ideally how you do this is you can connect the pump separately from the computer. Usually it uses a SATA cable for most, like a D5 pump. This DDC actually uses a 5-volt header on the motherboard, and the header happens to be way, way, way underneath the GPU down there. I got a USB connector so that I could power it, which is with USB, but I won't be able to get it back in and connected, so I had to route the whole thing and connect it, but now I'm risking the fact that I have to have the computer on to run the pump. I'll put some paper towel down and I will do my best to catch it as soon as I can to prevent any damage. So here, let me add some paper towel. I don't really care about anything over here. There's no electronics. Really, it's just right here. That's my worry. Onto the back of the GPU. If this leaks, it's going down, it's fine. This leaks here, hopefully I have enough here. Anything here is fine. Okay, I have opened the fill port here, and I'm going to start to fill it. I can hear it getting into these lower pipes. Put in about 500 milliliters. Now is the tricky part, because now I have to turn on the computer to cycle the pump and move some liquid around to drain this down. So I will turn on power, and then it's tricky because I'm going to the power button, watch this, and then turn it off right away. Okay. So far so good. I have put in a full liter, 4 cups of coolant. I did buy 2 of these, so I'm gonna go fill this up again and I'll be right back. Okay, it's filled, it's going. I don't see any problem. It's kind of just doing its thing. I don't know how to use this Aqua computer yet. I haven't really clicked through a whole lot, but everything seems okay. No water anywhere. I am really, really happy right now. I am just going to let it run for a little bit, and hopefully all is well. I am so very happy right now. Okay, cool. Stay tuned. I'm gonna let it run for a little bit, make sure all is okay, and I'll give you an update in a couple minutes. All right, I'm back, and it has been a full evening, and everything is working amazing. No leaks. I'm very excited. I am topping up the distro every, I don't know, few hours. I'm adding just a tiny little bit more as it gets rid of the rest of the air bubbles. It's actually at a point now where there are no air bubbles running through it, so I can't even tell that the water is moving. And I keep checking the Aqua computer because I'm just freaking out. I'm like, okay, is it working? Is the pump on? I actually just went into the BIOS just to check to see what the pump RPM was at, and it's sitting at 3000 RPM. I went, if you touch the pump on the back, it doesn't even feel like it's working, which is, I mean, it's crazy. Like I said, don't have a lot of experience with pumps, so this is all pretty cool and new. What else? Oh, the alarm. This Aqua computer has an alarm that you can set up based on your flow rate. You can do a couple other settings as well, but I set it up on flow rate, going to bed, thinking, okay, if it dropped, then there'd be an issue and the alarm would go off. I got into bed last night, and not 15, 20 minutes after I go to bed, just when you're like really kind of just falling asleep, the alarm starts going off. My wife is going, oh my God, what's the alarm? What's happening? I jump out of bed expecting to see water shooting out everywhere. And no, I mean, the flow rate had just dropped below the threshold of my alarm. I don't know why. I mean, it was fine. I literally kind of went to bed after that, after I lowered the threshold and everything was fine. So I'm still trying to figure out what kind of lighting ambiance I kind of want to put in this. It's all somewhat at the default lighting. I did put the Kingpin stuff here. I can customize a lot of that as well. But yeah, so far I am extremely pleased with it. I did run Cinebench real quick just to see what the temps were on the CPU. It would not go over 60 degrees Celsius, which is pretty cool. And then I did run some other kind of GPU benchmarks, and it wouldn't go over 50 degrees Celsius on the GPU, which is pretty cool considering most GPUs run at 75, 80 degrees Celsius, and most CPUs will go up to, what, 95? You know, they'll cap out at 100 degrees. So it's pretty cool. I didn't actually expect the performance, the cooling performance to be that much better. I know it's slightly better, but yeah, it's pretty cool. This video has been a whirlwind for me. Like I say, one of the most stressful situations that I have experienced, putting water near a computer. So if I missed anything, if there's little pieces that I forgot or I skipped over, please leave a comment down below and let me know your questions. If you do want to know more about all the different fittings, where I got them, pricing, I can do a video about that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, stay tuned for the next one.